Hello, you're welcome to Straight Talk Africa. It's 1830 UTC on Wednesday, April 17th. I am Shaka Sali. Today, we will talk about the significance and the social implications of an international ruling regarding the border between Eritrea and Ethiopia. Both Asmara and Addis Ababa have claimed victory. But is it really possible for both capitals to claim victory? In which case, of course, you're talking about a win-win situation. We'll find out later, of course, from our two important guests. They are, of course, the Eritrean ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Girma Asmerom. Ambassador Asmerom, you're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure hosting you, sir.
Thank you.
The other guest is the Ethiopian ambassador to Washington, and his name is Kasahun Ayele. My pleasure, Ambassador Ayele, to welcome you to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, and of course we look forward to your contributions. Later in the program, we will give you, the audience, a chance to call and talk. Now, this international border ruling between your two countries, do you look at it, Ambassador Asmerom, as a positive step in the right direction?
I don't see it only as a positive step, but it's the only step and a correct step. Mm-hmm. So this is really a bright future for mm-hmm. both the people of Eritrea and Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. Both of us are the poorest of the poorest. Mm-hmm. Then we can concentrate on alleviating poverty, all types of poverty, sickness, mm-hmm. lack of schools, lack of roads. Mm-hmm. So I think this is the best of the best one can imagine. The best
of the best. What about you, Ambassador Ayere from Ethiopia? Positive step in the right direction?
Yes, I do. I see it as a positive step because this is a very significant step to cement peace between the two countries, mm-hmm. and it is a step forward to put the conflict behind both countries, mm-hmm. So that they can focus on development to fight against their common enemy and number one enemy, which is poverty.
Which is poverty.
That's right.
And others, of course, might add disease and perhaps ignorance. Now, let me ask you this question, really. There are a lot of people, frankly, who do not understand, for example, how a people who have fought for 2 years and lost anywhere between 80,000 to 100,000 people could actually, after this verdict, say that they both have won. Is it possible that both of you have won? Didn't you lose something? Or is it possible that you just got everything you wanted? And if so, do you feel justified that you actually had to fight for the 2 years?
I think that's a very good question. Basically, when I say it's really, a victory mm-hmm. For both people, for humanity, what I meant by saying is that basically there are pertinent issues which there were claims and counterclaims. Mm-hmm. This conflict should only be resolved and can only be resolved not only in Eritrea and Ethiopia, in any part of the world, through legal means and peaceful means. Mm-hmm. We are not fortunate enough. That didn't happen. Yes, it is really a sad story.
Why didn't you go that route before?
That's a very good question. That's what I'm trying to hammer in. So what is the victory is, once and for all, the border was not demarcated way back. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It was delineated.
Mm-hmm. What is the difference? What's the difference between...
The difference between delineation and demarcation. Delineation is the colonial masters. Like any African country, the entire colonial boundaries were set by the colonial masters. None of our African chiefs or kings agreed to that agreement. None. The Bakongo Empire, the Timbuktu Empire, none of our chiefs agreed. Mm-hmm. So the colonizers covered these territories, and we are not only the unique country, Eritrea. Uganda is like that, Kenya is like that, South Africa is like that. So we came into existence. So when we got our independence, we thought this was a defined boundary by the colonial powers. To us, it was literally, I mean, as you said, the meaning was not really that much of clear, the demarcation and delineation. So when our Ethiopian brothers claimed certain chunks of land, and we said we could handle this matter peacefully and amicably. The issue started, by the way, a lot of people think, it started May 1998. No, that's not true. It started way back 1993. So we were handling it amicably because we felt it should be resolved peacefully. But we were not fortunate enough. It didn't take place. So they came chunk by chunk. I mean, this is history. The historians, I'm looking forward, but I don't deal with history. But in 1997 was the last straw that killed the camel. Our Ethiopian brothers, in particular, the regime in power, which is, from Tigray, put out a map, a Tigrayan map, which, took a chunk of land from Eritrea and then declared it an official map, which is violation of international laws.
And
then we complained.
Specifically, we're talking about which particular areas here? Are we talking about areas such as Badame, for example? Are we talking about Zarembesa and Aritena? What are we talking about here?
We're talking about 3 sectors. The map is clearly, printed, and maybe, if I could show you even the map. I brought the map with me, and this is a Tigrayan map, which they produced. And look, the black spots were the ones which they annexed into. I'm talking geographically annexed. But they were also encroaching, bit by piece, bit by piece. There is a Tigrayan term which is called tararo, means demarcators. So they were using a chunk, and we were complaining. So in 1997, my president complained and wrote a letter, said, let us amicably resolve this issue. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Finally, another encroachment came through other areas. So encroachments were continuing across the border. So finally, the conflict erupted. And then that's how we got into. But it was a big chunk of, and even in the court, our Ethiopian brothers declared and claimed, a big chunk of land. It's clearly spelled here, in the UN document. You can see all this. So when I say win or lose, whatever we have claimed, we got. We never claimed anything inside Ethiopia. No. So and whatever also another success is that once and for all, what victory should be seen once and for all, this border is demarcated between the 2 countries, so they would not have any kind of conflict.
Thank you very much. What about you, Ambassador Ayele? Ambassador Asmerom says whatever they claimed they have gotten under this international ruling. What about you? Why are you celebrating? What did you specifically get? And why, in fact, did you honestly go to war with Eritrea? Is it because there is something very strategic, some kind of minerals? Is there oil, for example, like the Bakassi Peninsula that separates Cameroon and Nigeria?
Thank you. This is a very important question, and before I attempt to answer this question, I would like to respond to some of the points raised by the ambassador of Eritrea. Concerning, first of all, the claim that the government is from Tigrayan. This is not a fact. This is a popularly elected government, and it is a coalition of parties. The dominant party is, of course, the TPLF, but like any other country, there is a dominant party and there is a minority, and this is a coalition government, not only once, but elected twice. Secondly, the encroachment issue and the map that my colleague has been referring, I'm not aware of this map, but what I know and what the international community know is that at the time of the conflict, or the beginning of the conflict, there was in fact a commission, a joint committee working on a peaceful measure of resolving the dispute, the border dispute. There might have been some instances before that, but this committee has been there all along. And in fact, on the very day this conflict was, or the invasion of Ethiopian administered land by the government of Eritrea took place on May 6, 1998, the committee, the joint committee itself was in Addis Ababa working on the same issue, and it came as a surprise. So it is provoked on Ethiopia, and Ethiopia's administered and territory, sovereign territory was invaded, and therefore Ethiopia had no choice but to defend itself. But Ethiopia did not embark upon a force measure. From the beginning, this was democratically discussed, and the resolution or the decision made by the government of Ethiopia was first of all to go all the way to resolve it by means of peace and peaceful means. But this was given an adequate chance, and this could not bring about a solution. This has been this is witnessed by, or is not something that is Ethiopia's unilateral measure, but U.S. government, Rwandan government, and the
Rwanda U.S.
OAU,
initiative.
Yes, OAU have all been trying to participate in the peaceful measure, but this could not go through, and therefore Ethiopia had no choice but to defend its territory and its people by means of force.
Now, talking about defending your territory, I think that from what I have seen, part of this particular territory we are referring to is Badame. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So,
in fact,
but now the reports that we get now suggest that Badame has in fact been given to Eritrea. Is that also correct?
No, my government, upon analysis of the decision and using tangible cartographic evidences, has declared officially that Badame, where the conflict started, now goes to Ethiopia.
And goes to Ethiopia.
Exactly.
Is that true?
I think if my Ethiopian brother, the ambassador, is reading from a different script, I would have said it's true, but this is a document, a UN document.
Yes,
this is not a Eritrean document.
Yeah, right.
Here is a document. You have to just simply go page 84.
Correct.
Not only page 84, compare map number 2 of the UN and compare map number 10 of the UN verdict.
Okay.
Map number 2 shows you clearly where both claim. The green line is Eritrea's claim. We never passed even an inch to Ethiopian territory. But look, our Ethiopian brothers claimed chunk of land, or the red.
Correct.
Finally, the verdict is here. And the verdict is exactly the way the colonial powers have underlined it in straight line.
Okay.
If my Ethiopian brother is talking about this, what they call the triangle, the Girma triangle, they call it. We've said a long time ago that's not what we claim, the straight line. But the document clearly, in the map, it shows you who is where, who is awarded.
So Badame is awarded.
The Badame also, it clearly says to whom it is awarded.
To Eritrea.
Statement, page 84, I will just read it for you, because our Ethiopian brothers claimed Badame Warada, we have been administering it from 1972-73, they said. Badame town, we had elementary schools, and we have been administered. It has been always Ethiopian territory, so it should be given to them. This is a court proceedings and the court's decision. This reference represents...
Hold it, please, because we have to go, unfortunately, for a break, and then when we come back, I'll give you an opportunity to complete your thought. Thank you very much, Diana. Yeah, you wanted to complete your point. Could you please do so in 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds. I will just simply read the verdict. The reference represents the bulk of items adduced by Ethiopia in support of its claim to have exercised administrative authority west of Eritrean claim line. The Commission does not find in this evidence of administration of areas sufficiently clear in location, substantial in scope, or extensive in time to displace the title of Eritrea, underline, that had crystallized as of 1993.
Okay.
This is the word. This is the verdict in the map. So that is Badme. He's talking about Badme town and Badme Waradas.
Now, is there a difference between Badame town and Badame village or Badame location? What exactly are we talking about here?
Well, Badme has a big name, but it's a small place.
Very small. Is it like what we would call in Africa a trading center or something?
Maybe. I've never been there, but from what my colleague read, I haven't heard the name Badme. And Badme has not been specified in the decision. But the Ethiopian government has also clearly stated that despite its claim over a vast chunk of land west of Badme, on the western part or western sector of the border, the decision has given the land to Eritrea not because it was not entitled, Ethiopia was not entitled according to the treaties, the colonial treaties, but because of, on the basis of effective administration. This land had never been administered by Ethiopia for a long time. That was administered by Eritrea, and therefore the decision, the ruling, rewarded or awarded this land to Eritrea.
To Eritrea.
Yeah, but this does not mean the place where the conflict started, which we call Badme, is included in the land awarded to Eritrea.
Would it be accurate to say, Ambassador Ayele, that both of you in some ways are spinning towards your political constituencies? Are we looking at what some might characterize as political window dressing here?
No, I don't think so. What is important is, first of all, we have agreed that it is a win-win.
Correct.
Because it puts the conflict behind us.
Both of you.
But facts are facts. It may be very difficult at this stage, which requires, the demarcation. Until the demarcation is finally made, it may be very difficult to know exactly which is which. But when it comes to Badme, the analysis undertaken so far by my government, on the basis of tangible evidence, Badme, where the conflict started, has gone to Ethiopia.
We will continue with that. Would you like to react to this, please?
What I was going. Is this a political statement? He's entitled. It's a democratic society. He can insult, but if this is what he calls democracy, insulting people, I pity him.
He obviously sounds pained because he is your compatriot. He comes from Eritrea.
He looks like an Eritrean who is really disgruntled, but if this is a guy who is preaching for a future Eritrea, I just pity him only, and I don't think he deserves even any comment. Thank you.
But he made some, I think he did make a point, especially about the journalists, because we gather, frankly, that there are journalists who have been undergoing a hunger strike in your country for the last 6 months.
I think that's a very good question, and how had he raised it that way, that would have been good, but he was, as you've heard him, he's insulting me. Yes, it is true, I'm not ashamed. I used to play for the Ethiopian national team. The local team was called Danyo, and he said, I'm talking as a Mercato Danyo team. I'm not ashamed. And I was good. Maybe he wasn't playing. What can I say?
So are you trying to demand a bit of reparations from the Ethiopians because you scored some goals for them?
Hopefully if they give me. But in terms of the journalists, literally what they have violated the law of the land. The law of the land is the law of the day. I agree with you. So they have been detained, and they would come and go through, because they have violated almost 140-something articles. We have a press law, which is, the law of the land is the law of the day. We have a press law which was adopted in 1996. But people could be critical. They should be brought to justice as soon as possible. That's fair.
Why didn't you do that?
It's the law. It's the law of the land. It's not up to the government. The law, the legal proceedings, is up to the court. So the court is handling the matter. You
know that some of the Western donors, especially countries like Denmark, they have already hit you with, they have cut off aid, really, because...
I'm glad you raised that question. In fact, it gave me an ammunition, because I saw it in the newspaper. Denmark has cut aid. Denmark has cut aid. The new party came to power in Denmark, and it has cut aid even to UNICEF, to UN, to a lot of about 25 countries. And it didn't suspend Eritrea. It will go up to 2005. So when I saw it on the newspaper, and when it was propagated as if it was a reaction, I just literally laughed. So go and read the document. At 2005, maybe Eritrea is a we are the poorest of the poorest, but we want an internally driven economic development.
But clearly Denmark in its statement suggested that it was no longer willing to support what it characterized as dictatorships.
No, read the document clearly, and the document clearly says the Denmark support, economic support, will go up to 2005.
Now wait a minute. When they cut aid from you, they also cut from Zimbabwe. They also reduced the aid to my country, Uganda. And frankly, they said it had something to do with the lack of transparency.
No, they were very clear. Read the document. The document is in hand. It's all a public document. You go and read the parliamentary debate.
Let's go to Malawi, another country where Denmark also cut aid. I guess that is really a question that can be tackled by both of you, but I think he specifically addressed it to you, Ambassador Ayele. But since we really don't have enough time in which we can answer this question, I think that you will get all the time that you need when we come back from a break to address this question, which came from Malawi. And the gentleman says that he is actually from Denmark, but via Somalia. It could even have been your country. It could have been Djibouti, you know, correct?
Yes, but I knew he was a Somalian from the accent.
I see. Thank you very much, Diana. And hello, I am Shaka Sali. And I'm coming back to you, of course, with Straight Talk Africa, which is coming to you live from here in Washington. If you have just joined us, today's topic is about this weekend's ruling, international ruling, about the borders between Eritrea and Ethiopia. And here with us to help walk us through the implications of that are two important diplomats who represent the respective countries. And one of them is Girma Asmerom, who is the Eritrean ambassador to the United States. Thank you again for being with us here in Studio 18. And of course, the Ethiopian ambassador, Kasahun Ayele. Thank you very much for being with us here in Studio 18. I told you that I would give you an opportunity to answer the question, of course, from the gentleman who was calling in from Malawi, but of course who resides in, who is from Denmark.
The question was concerning as to why so many thousands of young people died for this cause. I don't want to go into the number because different figures are quoted by different parties.
Right.
But whatever the figure, indeed, no life should have spent on this issue, on this cause. But on the part of Ethiopia, Ethiopia did not provoke this conflict and had tried its level best involving international community, including the UN and the OAU, to resolve it by peaceful means. But this could not pass through, this could not happen. And therefore, Ethiopia had to defend its territorial sovereignty and had to reverse an aggression. And it did it. But then, it did not pursue to capture what it did not belong to us. It opted and contributed its best for a peaceful resolution, the result of which we are discussing today.
But you captured Badme, didn't you?
We did.
And now?
Badme belonged to us.
And now it belongs to them?
No, it belongs to us.
So it belongs to both of you. Is that possible?
Exactly. No, it can't be. Can't be.
The ruling is... I think
it can't be, but as I said, the demarcation has to take place before we can tell which corner of what has gone to whom.
I see. Let's go to
Badme, where the conflict started, and I don't think that is that important, because we will be seeing it in the near future.
Let's go to your country, Ethiopia. Good evening, Abede from Ethiopia. You are welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Hello, I would like to ask a question to the ambassador of Eritrea.
Go ahead, please. Could you please turn your television set or radio volume down, because we're getting an echo on the line?
Yeah, my question is, I have two questions.
Go ahead.
First, the ambassador has shown you a map with three lines. One, the Ethiopian claim line. Second, the Eritrean claim line. And the third one, in black, the arbitral decision. Would you please ask the ambassador to show you, on the basis of the black line, where Badme is, and if Badme has been assigned to Eritrea on that map? That's my first question.
Mm-hmm.
My second question to the ambassador is, his president is claimed to have said at one point that Eritrea's withdrawal from Badme is as likely as the sun setting in the east. And he is said to have claimed that Dalambasa and Alitana are sovereign territories of Eritrea. How does he respond to this now, that the UN has decided, that the arbitral tribunal has decided this belongs to Ethiopia? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, he does not agree with you. You heard him. What about that black line on the map?
Thank you. And the voice sounds to me, Prime Minister Meles, to be frank with you.
Yeah, he sounds like him.
It's him. Because I'm positive, because I've met him so many times, so
that's terrific,
having the question coming from him, I'm also delighted.
That's terrific for straight talk.
And he is right. On the map, it doesn't show Badme. I mean, they have avoided, it doesn't show the entire, even inside Ethiopia, it doesn't show any of the villages.
Correct.
It's blank. But you have to collaborate this map with former Italian map as well as Eritrean map. That this line change, it doesn't even change a single comma. That is where it is. Second, you have to look at it. That's why I did quote the page 84. You don't have to go to the map only. Just 84, it clearly says in the previous paragraph, Badme town, Badme Warada, we have been administered, should be given to us, Ethiopia claims. And the verdict is clearly spelled, based on your claim, since we didn't see that, all this doesn't belong to you. They have passed the verdict. Anyway, it's not very good to dwell on this issue. Let's move forward.
What about the second question on the person you claim is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia?
Exactly. The second question which he raised on the sunrise and sunset issue is that it did rise up. Where does Badme belong? Is the sun has risen up. What he wants is a metaphorical expression. It's a metaphorical, you can say, even over my dead body, somebody would say. But that doesn't mean he's going to be dying like that.
Okay.
So given that reality, let us move forward. Yes, Ethiopians have gotten some land in the Central Front. We've gotten some land. We've gotten some land in the Eastern Front. They've gotten some land in the Eastern Front. But the major issue is the conflict for both people in the future. There will never be any pretext. Aggression or counter-aggression. Claim, counter-claim. It will be demarcated once and for all. Let's move forward. That's my point.
Let me ask you this question. You know that Africa is gearing towards forming an African Union. The leaders want to unite Africa. When you look at that, and you look at the borders that are colonially inherited, as you said, do you sincerely, if you were to talk to us from the deepest, better part of the bottom of your heart and soul, do you sincerely find it justifiable for younger people to die for something that colonialists just put together, just drew on the map?
I think you raised a very good question also, because I think whether Nkrumah, whether Sekou Touré, when they said African unity, they said first independence, then unity, voluntary unity. Now even also we're talking voluntary unity. There is a difference, yes, the colonizers divided. If you go to Burkina Faso and Ghana, you would see at the border, the same people.
That's right.
Sometimes even in Africa, even you say in one village, there you find the wife, in the other village, in the demarcated line.
Right.
In the other room, you'll find the wife.
Right.
In the other room, you'll find the husband.
Right.
So I don't think we should dwell on that. That's why I say let's be visionary.
Obviously, your situation is not unique, because you have borders changing, for example,
so
in the center of Europe,
so
the Balkans.
We should, in fact, move on. We are all the poorest of the poorest, not only Eritrea and Ethiopia, but Djibouti, Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia. That's why they had the IGAD forum, so that they could move forward, integrate, because to be frank with you, none of us are exporters. There is no even competition. All of us are importers, major importers. There isn't even industry. 80% of our populations they sign with their thumbs. No, they don't even sign with the pain. So this is saddest.
You produce what you do not consume.
Exactly.
And consume what you do not produce.
Exactly. He talked about ASEP. To us, to be frank with you, ASEP is not really an issue because every port in that sector, Djibouti imports, ASEP, Massawa, Berbera, Port Sudan, Mombasa, they are complementary. They are not competitive ports. They all serve certain sectors. So the ASEP is a service provider. A port is a service provider. Ownership, it belongs to Eritrea. Usage, anybody can use it. So when people raise in terms of Ethiopia is going to be landlocked, that is absurd to me because it will never be landlocked. Yes, ownership is a different story, but usage is what Ethiopia would use. The eastern sector, for example, the Ethiopian eastern sector will be using Djibouti, Berbera, and all these things. The western sector will be using Mombasa, maybe. Port Sudan, also the northwestern area. So all this kind of talk in terms of the ASEP issue is resolved because it's a sovereign state. But in terms of the second question he raised, in terms of detention and opposition, I tell you, brother, frankly, it is not an insult even to the government of Eritrea. The government, it's an insult to the people of Eritrea, which is injecting, because this guy could be, maybe his brother or relative might be in jail. Possibly he can have a grievance, again he can talk. But to talk on behalf of the people of Eritrea, which he does not represent, for me, even to respond to him, it's really upset because the government is popular. It is the only country in Africa where a president goes to coffee shops without anybody accompanying.
Now
I've been to a lot of African countries.
Does he still do that after the war?
Yes, sir.
But how else do you gauge the popularity of your government? Because have you actually been conducting what would really be seen as competitive elections? Have you, for example, what you would say like a political playing field that is leveled?
I think that's a very legitimate question. We're moving to that. We've been only 10 years old and we've ratified the constitution. We have to put in place the proper elements, instruments of constitution, which is electoral law and the party law. You just don't come, even be it in America, be it in Kenya, be it in Uganda, you have to have electoral law. So we proceed through that matter. We are engaged. You will see an Eritrea emerging, a multi-party, democratic, prosperous, a free market-driven economy. You will see it.
Something like a no-party democracy, eh?
No. We will have multi-party.
You know, there was a time, Ambassador Ayele, when your boss, the Prime Minister now, Meles Zenawi, your President, Isaias Afwerki, President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, and so on and so on. There was a time when they used to refer to those gentlemen as a new breed of African leaders. What do you think this war that you fought against one another, having been very, very close allies, and of course also in the Great Lakes region you had a war between soldiers of Uganda and Rwanda, who were also, like you, very great allies, and you all were great allies. What do you think these wars have done to the image of your countries and your leaders?
Well, as I said earlier, one of the benefits that Ethiopia has gained out of this ruling is that it has proven itself right. That it was forced into a war that was not necessary, for only demanding what is rightly, it rightly be owned. And finally the ruling has proven that what it rightly owned was correct and that it had gone to war for good reason. But indeed this could have damaged the image of the region because of the fact that this dispute should not have been resolved by means of force. But Ethiopia is not the cause for it. Ethiopia did not prefer this methodology or this method of resolving the dispute. It was forced into it. and finally it has pursued, even having won the war, it has pursued the peaceful means, and therefore Ethiopia is proven right.
What about you, Mr. Ambassador?
I'm not going to dwell and comment on, because as I said, let historians deal. Facts will speak for them. Facts are stubborn. They are all in print. People, historians will deal who did what and how. But your question is, what was the damage and where do we go from here? Yes, that concept which was developed, these are the promising leaders, the emerging leaders, the new breed of African leaders has been tarnished and damaged, yes. But is it tarnished forever? No. Where I can speak for my government, we're still focused. We still feel there is no option for Africa, no option. There is no even any gray area. It's a must that we should all cooperate. We should all work, try to alleviate the suffering of our people in all sectors, economic development, health sector, education. Both of us can't afford a single penny to spend on bullets and ammunitions. So basically, we're still focused, and I have no doubt and illusion this region is going to be one of the most prosperous and promising regions. So we are a bit derailed from our track, but we are still on track, I can assure you.
Do you agree with him? Because let's face it, only not long ago you were very close allies. Can you do it again?
I can also speak on my own country's behalf. First of all, Ethiopia never desired to go this path, and prior to the conflict, Ethiopia focused only on fighting against poverty, and the result was very encouraging. It was derailed out of this correct path of the fight against poverty during these 2 years of conflict, but then it has reversed an aggression. It has proven to the region and to the world that border disputes should not be resolved by force. And once again, Ethiopia has focused its attention to fight poverty and to fight ignorance and disease, and to deepen the democracy that it has already planted. And in the near future, this result will be very encouraging, and therefore the image of Ethiopia is once again in the limelight now.
What about the potential for the relationship between your people, his people, and probably really governments, because people probably don't have the same kind of problems that Addis Ababa and Asmara in the context of governments actually have?
Well, the people-to-people relationship, because this war was not caused by the people. It was provoked by the government in Eritrea, and therefore this situation, unfavorable situation, was created by the government of Eritrea, not by the people. And we hope that in the near future, or in due course, the people-to-people relationship will remain similar and conducive, because they have the same culture, the same religion, and they have lived for ages together, intermarried, and we hope, we are confident that the people-to-people relationship will once again rejuvenate.
So you see, you don't probably need reparations from Ethiopia for having played football.
Let me mention something, because my brother, let historians deal, I said, but he keeps on bringing it. Facts are stubborn. This is in English. Our regional new map ready. That is Tigrayan map.
On that note?
So on that note, I say, who started even putting a map?
Doesn't matter anymore. Thanks very much for...
We're not looking at the details of the map.
For Ambassador Girma Asmerom for coming here in Studio 18, and of course Ambassador Kasaho Nayela. It was a pleasure having you here, and to our affiliate stations, along with our viewers and listeners, we thank you for tuning in to Straight Talk Africa.
سلام ترخيبو قومي خد عوين رنطاي حسيبو عساخ التفت بحر غتشو يعوضا جوتين قرمامي عساخ التفت بحر غتشو يعوضا جوتين قرمامي خيو كي حلمي زعمن كيو كدت ألمي زعمن كيو كدت ألمي Gano Eritrea, mini melodi zebra. Esmi suat Eritrea, mini melodi zebra. Ager, 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 ager. Melalesir, neman tegam. نلعلي تحدي مقرت منبار مسرتي وتهاجرت عندي يكتر يسمع